What if I told you the biggest threat to Donald Trump isn't the Democrats, the media, or even the upcoming election? What if the real danger, the one shaking MAGA from the inside, comes from a scandal no one expected to explode again? Because right now, a bombshell is ripping through American politics. New Epstein files, a growing rebellion inside the GOP, a fracture in the MAGA base that not even Trump saw coming. And today, we're breaking down the shift no one predicted and the one that could end it all. It started quietly. A routine congressional push to release all unclassified Epstein files, a move many assumed would expose Democrats, elites, and the powerful. But when the first documents dropped, the story took a turn no one expected. Suddenly, MAGA circles weren't celebrating. Panic started to spread. Not proof of crimes, but a growing pile of references, emails, and uncomfortable overlaps involving people Trump once knew. Enough to raise questions the movement was never prepared to confront. And then came the most explosive line of all. In a newly released email, Epstein allegedly wrote, "I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump." In an instant, a scandal MAGA expected to aim at the liberal elite boomeranged back toward their own leader. The base wasn't ready for that twist, and neither was Trump. Instead of calling for full transparency, Trump dismissed the Epstein files as a Democrat hoax. Then he shifted the spotlight, demanding investigations into Epstein's connections with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, J.P. Morgan, and others. A list aimed squarely at his political rivals, not himself. But in politics, perception is everything. When people saw Trump fighting against releasing all the files, the question became unavoidable. Why avoid full disclosure? What's he worried might surface? Even longtime supporters felt something shift. Something in the narrative didn't line up anymore. Then came the moment that shook the entire movement. Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of Trump's most loyal defenders, publicly criticized him, called his stance on the Epstein files a huge miscalculation, and demanded total transparency. Trump responded the only way he knows how. He pulled his endorsement. For years, they moved in lockstep. Suddenly, they were enemies. This wasn't Democrats attacking Trump. This wasn't the media going after MAGA. This was MAGA turning on itself. For years, the movement followed Trump with unbreakable loyalty. Every scandal strengthened him. Every attack fed the legend. But now a new energy is rising. Quiet, uncertain, dangerous. Supporters who never questioned him are suddenly whispering, "Why won't he let the files release? Why is he fighting transparency? What's he hiding?" Because MAGA was built on exposing the elite. But what happens when the spotlight turns inward? As the dust settles and the scandal grows, America is staring at a crossroads, not just for Trump, but for the entire MAGA movement. Because from here, the path splits in two, and each direction leads to a very different future. In first version of the story, the movement doesn't die, it mutates. A new generation of firebrand conservatives steps forward. Younger, louder, more unfiltered than anything we've seen before. They embrace the energy of MAGA, but without the baggage of Trump's controversies. Rallies continue. Hashtags surge. The message survives, even if the messenger doesn't. In this future, Trump becomes a symbolic figure, a founder of the movement rather than its leader. The torch doesn't fall to the ground. It's passed on. And MAGA becomes something bigger than the man who created it. A brand, a culture, a political identity reborn for a new era. This is the MAGA 2.0 future. A revival. A reinvention. A movement that outlives its king. But the second path is much darker. Here, the movement doesn't evolve. It splits. On one side, the die-hard Trump loyalists, convinced that any attack on him is an attack on the movement itself. On the other, a rising transparency faction, insisting that the truth, whatever it may be, must come first, even if it means questioning Trump. Influencers begin choosing sides. Conservative media divides. Candidates who once campaigned under the same banner suddenly turn their fire on each other. Accusations fly. Lines are drawn. The base fractures, not over ideology, but over identity. And in this version of the story, MAGA doesn't transform. It implodes into a war of loyalty versus accountability. A full-scale ideological civil war. And if that path becomes reality, the movement may never look the same again. No matter what side you're on, one thing is undeniable. This is the first time in 8 years the MAGA movement is showing cracks. Visible, public, irreversible. Not because of Democrats, not because of the media, not because of the deep state, but because of a scandal tied to one man, and a movement now forced to confront a truth it never expected. Is this the end of MAGA? Or is this the beginning of something even bigger? Now it's your turn. Is MAGA collapsing or simply evolving? Is Trump still in control, or is the movement finally starting to move past him? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Hit like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell to support independent political analysis. And remember, the truth should never be untold.